Hello, I'm Simon Whistler, you're watching TopTenzNet, and in the video today we're looking at the top 10 places you might actually encounter Bigfoot. For hundreds of years, people all over the world have reported sightings of a hairy, bipedal giant in the wild. The creatures or species known as Sasquatch have been seen on every continent except Antarctica. In the United States, they have been seen everywhere, not just in the Pacific Northwest. With so many encounters, not all reports result in the assessment that these are simply passive forest giants. Some reports say that they are downright violent. Let's get started. Number 10. Salmon River in Idaho. The infamous Bauman story was relayed firsthand to President Teddy Roosevelt and ultimately penned in his book The Wilderness Hunter. A well-known Idaho horror story, the story of Bauman, a Jeremiah Johnson-like German-born woodsman, and his unfortunate companion continues to terrify adventurers to this day. The two trappers pursued beaver along the Salmon River with sparse luck. Searching for an uncharted surplus, the men entered a remote pass with an evil reputation. A year prior, a hunter's half-eaten body was discovered among massive man-like footprints. Aware of, but disregarding that detail, Bauman and his partner set up camp several miles into the dense wilderness. The next 3 nights, they were increasingly terrorized by a massive, two-legged phantom with a foul odor that uttered sinister sounds. Bauman left his companion for a short time to collect their beaver in the nearby stream. Upon returning, he discovered his partner's dead body with fresh fang marks. His neck had been snapped. Needless to say, Bauman dashed away and never returned. Number 9. The Otay Mountains, Mexico-California border. The Otay Mountains are an unforgiving, remote, and mysterious place. A popular throughway for thousands of illegal Mexican immigrants, the harsh mountains are shrouded in decades of violence and paranormal events. Beyond reputable tales of faceless ghosts and crashed phantom pilots, retired US-Mexico Border Patrol agent Rocky Elmore reports compelling Sasquatch activity on the border. Rocky waited until retirement to write his book detailing 20 years of supernatural phenomena, admitting there's nothing now to lose by coming forward with these stories. His tales of a border Bigfoot are backed by several sources. One foggy night, tracking a group of illegal Mexicans along a tributary of the Otay River, a massive splash sent chills down Rocky's spine. The fog prevented a visual, but he felt the presence of something large and frightening. A pack of coyotes closer to the stream retreated past him, whimpering with their tails tucked between their legs. He didn't see the individual, but he felt intense fear. Later that evening, a frightened thermal scope operator admitted to seeing a large bipedal creature with a massive heat signature stalking 2 patrol agents. Completely unaware of the creature, the agents on foot were ordered to abandon the area immediately. The thermal scope operator frantically explained that a large predator had come within steps of them. Luckily, the potential prey evacuated immediately, evading the phantom predator. Number 8. Mount St. Helens in Washington. With extensive lava tube caves, Mount St. Helens generally seems like a prime place where Bigfoot could live. After the 1981 eruption, people allegedly witnessed emergency helicopters lifting massive hairy corpses away from the mountainside. Such majestic, pronounced mountains seem to attract esoteric activity. The area is no stranger to mysterious events. One of the most well-known encounters with Sasquatch-like creatures took place in 1924 in a rugged gorge 2 miles east of Mount St. Helens. The event, now known as the Battle of Ape Canyon, details 5 miners fighting off a group of hairy apes from their small cabin over the course of one long night. Shrill whistles and thumping noises followed the men for their week-long gold prospecting expedition in the gorge. One early evening near a spring, they encountered a 7-foot-tall hairy creature staring at them across a clearing. One of the men opened fire but missed. That night, the prowler and its friends seemingly followed them home. Throughout the entire night, a large group of hairy creatures pelted the rugged cabin with rocks and banged on the walls. One even thrust its arm inside and grabbed an axe. In the morning, the shaken men immediately left the area, never to return. Number 7. Bluff Creek, California. On October 25, 1967, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin recorded the most famous Bigfoot video of all time. On horseback, the men traveled 25 miles southwest of Orleans, California, to a tributary at the Klamath River. As the story goes, they rounded the bend in Bluff Creek and stumbled upon a giant discovery. Literally. Just past the snarling root structure of a fallen tree, the men laid eyes upon the creature both their lives would forever be intertwined with. A few hectic moments later, they recorded a jaw-dropping video that would forever leave the world stunned, polarized, and hungry for more. Though the clip seems harmless and helped spur the idea of a friendly forest giant, many don't realize that the men were quite frightened. Their exhilaration tempered a bubbling fear, but the men admitted the creature looked quite agitated, displaying a noticeable look of contempt and disgust on its face. Later, Gimlin revealed he believed there were 2 other Bigfoot creatures that were waiting for them if they followed too close. Years later, an anecdote would surface about a man who was terrorized on a dirt road near Bluff Creek by a similar creature in 1952. That night, the man drove through a rainy bare valley towards the mouth of Bluff Creek. When he left the car to move a fallen piece of brush, an orangutan-like ogre with shaggy hair and long canine teeth charged at him. It circled the man a few times, retreated suddenly, and came stampeding back at high speed. Shocked, the man leapt in his car and attempted to drive away as the creature clawed the car windows. Luckily, he was able to shoot off into the night, leaving the monster in the rainy darkness. Number 6. The Everglades National Park in Florida. In the movies, they always warn you, don't go into the swamps at night. Well, at least in the movies we love to watch. But besides shifty vipers and drooling gators, another muck-drenched predator is reported to occupy the Florida swamps: the skunk ape. A bit more lithe, aggressive, and peculiar than the average Sasquatch, the skunk ape is most known by its putrid stench. In these creepy cases, the pungent odor often precedes the encounter, offering a little notice to the witness. In an interview with Sasquatch Chronicles, a man named Dave recounts a night in the eastern Everglades with a friend and their pack of dogs. The hounds picked up a scent down the road and took off. A few minutes later, they sprinted back in sheer panic. They leapt into the bed of the truck and refused to come out of their cages. Dave investigated the area down the way and noticed an 8-foot-tall dark shape with red glowing eyes in the bush off to the side of the road. He stomped his foot at the shadow. It screamed a blood-curdling scream. Dave then shot it twice with his shotgun. Immediately after the shots, a huge uproar began in the tree line. He admitted it sounded like 2 other beings rampaging through the foliage like a stampede of elephants, apparently frightened by the blasts. Describing the figure, Chris said it looked like a man in an extra-large ghillie suit with extra-long hair. He even admitted that the faint detail observed eerily reminded him of a large orangutan-like creature that was photographed in a Florida backyard in 1995. Number 5. Fauke, Arkansas. In 1972, the cult classic drive-in movie The Legend of Boggy Creek, which spawned a sequel, Boggy Creek 2, that later became a Mystery Science Theater 3000 classic, introduced us to a sleepy southern town haunted by a foul-smelling monster. The Fauke Monster, or Boggy Creek Monster, is a legendary southern cryptid responsible for a series of aggressive 1971 encounters in and around Fauke, Arkansas. What many people don't realize is that these startling encounters never actually stopped. The area around Fauke is remote and uninviting. The vast number of waterways, swampland, dense timber, and soggy soil make development on most of the land completely improbable. One long dark night in 1971, a pair of 7-foot-tall apes emerged from the swamp and terrorized a young backwoods family. One of them thrust his arm through a window, swiping at a young girl inside. They scratched the house and even tackled one of the younger boys who investigated outside. The marauders were chased off by the family's shotgun blasts. Encounters continued for decades. While many of these sightings involved a hulking black shape shooting across the road, a few accounts were a little more too close for comfort. One morning in October of 2000, a bow hunter sat quietly in a tree stand as dawn approached. As he waited for the catch of the day to stumble through, something else decided to enter the area. A big black figure appeared in the darkness and approached the hunter. Before he could contemplate what was happening, it reached up to him with a giant black gorilla-like hand. The creature brushed its palm against the man's razor-sharp broadhead arrow and wallowed in pain. Per the hunter, it was louder than a car horn and it was at my feet. It scared the crap out of me, so I started yelling back and cussing. It ran off, breaking trees and tearing down everything in its path. I sat there 15 minutes until it got daylight and left. I believe that I scared him or her as much as it scared me. Number 4. Hanad, Oklahoma. In 2000, a group of Sasquatch terrorized a family living on 30 acres of remote land in southeast Oklahoma. The series of events traumatized the family and reportedly led to the violent death of a Sasquatch. According to the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, BFRO, the activity began when the family planted snow beans all over their 30-acre property. The beans attracted massive amounts of deer. The head of the household, Tim, and his brother Mike would then shoot the deer and store their meat in a shed on the property. Soon, a bold group of Bigfoot-like creatures established semi-permanent residence in the hills outside the property. Everything began small, but quickly escalated. One creature at a time would circle the home, but things soon spiraled out of Tim's control. As the nights passed, the family grew more and more terrified. This creature is getting bolder every time it returns. This thing is huge, walks upright, smells like a musky urine, burned hair type odor. He repeatedly comes back in the early morning hours after midnight and harasses them until just before dawn. Week after week, the invaders grew more aggressive. As Tim reported to the Sasquatch Chronicles radio show, the creatures stole deer meat, threw rocks, pounded the doors, destroyed items in the yard, and scratched windows, all while cackling under the moonlight and speaking strange chatter back and forth. After realizing that the local authorities would not help and the monsters would not relent, they decided to fight back. The saga reached fever pitch when a creature appeared in the window, angrily displaying its teeth, and growled at the brothers. Tim and Mike pursued it outside. They reportedly shot and killed the Sasquatch 70 yards from the house. Amazingly, as the men prepared to collect the dead body, another Bigfoot emerged. It picked up the giant corpse and ran back to the woodline. Several shotgun nights took place from then on. The removal of the snow peas and increased resistance to these monsters ultimately staved them off for good. Number 3. Great Smoky Mountains National Park in Tennessee. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park is one of the most beautiful areas in the entire United States. For all that beauty and majesty, there is a dark side to the 800 square mile Blue Ridge Mountain Kingdom. David Paulides is an investigative journalist and retired 16-year member of the San Jose Police Department. Paulides has sent shockwaves through the country with his investigations regarding unsolved missing persons cases in the national park system. Perhaps his most chilling tale of vanishing people, and the one that admittedly disturbs Paulides the most, involves a little boy on vacation in the Great Smoky Mountains. As told to host George Norrie on the Coast to Coast AM radio show, 6-year-old Dennis Lloyd Martin played with siblings and other children in an area called Spence Field. Their game of hide-and-seek ended in heartbreak when Dennis did not reappear from behind a bush near the tree line. Approximately 1 hour after the disappearance, a family hiking the riverlands below the mountain, unaware of the events, reported hearing an enormous and sickening scream. They witnessed what looked like an upright, bear-like man running up a dense hillside. The rough-looking man, as they described it, was actively trying to remain hidden and appeared to be carrying something over its shoulder. David will not commit to naming Bigfoot as the culprit, but the signs eerily point in that direction. Dennis was never found. Number 2. Pierce County, Washington. Pierce County by far features the most Sasquatch sightings in the United States. With a staggering number of sightings as reported by the BFRO, the area is rich in activity and compelling activity to boot. Of the 628 reports in the state of Washington, 12%, that's 76, come from Pierce County. And of those 76 overall reports, 31 of them are considered Class A encounters by the BFRO. This designation means that the sightings are clear and involve circumstances where misinterpretation or misidentification of other animals can be ruled out with greater confidence. Number 1. Keechee Bayou, Louisiana. Mike Willie's Bigfoot encounter is a terrifying reminder that these beings could be deep in the wilderness and bring you great harm. In 1981, Mike was 25 years old, living near Shreveport. He regularly hunted deer miles into the bayou. On this occasion, Mike ventured down a logging road into the thicket and positioned himself upon a 10-foot tall tree stand. It wasn't long before Mike noticed bizarre deer activity, and soon he discovered why. An 8-foot tall, gorilla-looking creature appeared in his peripheral vision and hopped behind a tree 20 yards away. Assuming it was just a prank, Mike began screaming at the moronic joker to leave the hunting grounds immediately. As Mike stood off with the creature for about 15 minutes, the details added up: the eyelashes, the square teeth, the cold breath, and the shiny hair. He realized that this was real. He readied his rifle, looked through the scope, and watched its eyes. Dread washed over him. I got to noticing its eyes. Its eyes were real evil, real sinister looking. You know, the look it was giving me. And I was thinking, how can a human do that? The creature roared and emitted a sharp whistle. A response whistle sounded from the east. Movement rang through the brush. Another creature was near. Mike took off running, and the monsters pursued him through the thicket. Somehow, he made it to his truck and fired a warning shot to stave the beasts off. It worked. When he drove off, he finally saw the other creature in his rear-view mirror. He was the one being hunted. So I hope you found that video interesting and entertaining. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for brand new videos just like this every day of the week. Also, over there on the right are a couple of other videos that you might enjoy if you enjoyed this one, and thank you for watching.